The hull was originally designed by Ray Hunt, and it was commissioned by a businessman in Marion, which used them as radar-controlled drones. And once the project was done, these boats, rather than saw them up, found their way into homes in the Marion Mattapoisett area. And these people, in turn, turned them into little runabout speedboats. And that's how it all started. I'm Jim Babbitt. I'm a woodworker here in Mattapoisett, Massachusetts.
And you remember seeing them when you were a kid, though?
Yes, there were a few around. Specifically in Mattapoisett, there was one called Wild Thing. And I don't know who owned it, but he was either very brave or very foolish. But he started off with a 25 that I remember, and by the time he got done playing with the boat, he was up to a 60 horse. And the thing was probably out of the water 50% of the time, because they did build them very lightly. My particular hull is a 13-foot version of the 12-foot. Local fellow here in Mattapoisett, Jim Broadwater, started, took a 12-foot hull, made a mold off it, but added another foot to it, so that he felt it might run a little bit better if it was a little bit larger. So as a result, he, to date, has made 2 hulls. He has the first one, I have the second one. It took me 50 years, but I finally managed to build one, and it's a lot of fun to drive. I built my boat purposely heavy so that it stays in the water better, and because you lose a lot of speed when you're jumping the waves all the time, and it just handles better. It has a 24-degree dead rise, which means that the hull is basically 24 degrees like this, rather than a Boston whaler, which might be something like this. It's not necessarily faster, but it's smoother through the waves. Therefore, you really need a little bit more horsepower to push these boats than you do a whaler. But the ride is completely different than a whaler. I mean, you pound yourself to death in the whaler, and this just kind of slices right through it.
What kind of reaction do you get from other boaters in the area when they see you at the launch ramp and stuff?
I've had people follow me off Route 6 down to where I launch it, to find out more about what the boat is. It's a very striking boat, as you'll see, and it draws crowds wherever it goes.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the wood you use for the deck of the boat. It's really very lovely, and you've obviously put a lot of time into it. What kind of wood is it? Well,
it's actually called sapelli. Often when people are looking at it down at the wharf, they say, "Oh, that's beautiful teak," and well, it's not really teak. It's called sapelli, which is similar to African mahogany.
How is the boat dry? Would you say it's a dry boat, drier than
when it's up on plane? Yes, it is. I was surprised how pretty dry it was. Once you get it into about a 2-foot chop, which is quite a bit, you might get some spray. But where if you're idling along in the harbor because of the 5-mile-an-hour speed limit, it has a tendency to throw a little bit of waves at you. Mm-hmm.
But when you're going through the chop, it blows out the stuff to the side.
Gets on the top of the water and it's going so fast it goes right by it. But boy, once it gets up in a plane, it's like rock solid, and it's.
Yeah, and it turns on a dime too. I noticed when you had it.
It turns pretty well, yeah. And this is really the first time I've ever experienced driving a true deep-vee hull. And when you do turn into the corner or whatever, you're over quite a bit. So it's
takes a little getting used to if you're used to just flat bottom boats your whole life.
And you have to play with the trim tabs. If you're going out into the waves, it's one setting. When you're coming back, you want to keep the nose up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it's you have to learn how to drive it. You just can't get it and get in it and go and expect to get the best results.
Well, it's like a race car, I guess, right? You're not going to hop in a NASCAR.
Ferrari, yes.
So if somebody wanted to buy one of these 13-foot hulled boats and have it finished to the degree that you did, would you be willing to do it for the right price?
For the right price,
Yeah.
anything's possible.